All right, so welcome back. Today we're going to have a guest lecture with Serenity Doherty, Doherty from the Writing Center here at UNL, which offers a lot of awesome services that you can go over there. This is a precursor to your design document. Oops, sorry, just a moment. This is a precursor to your design document, the first draft of which is due this Friday. The drafts that you'll be going through, of course, are based on completion and are your opportunities to get early feedback on your design, which is the vast majority of your points on the assignments going forward. And it also gives you exposure to technical writing, which is what the main crux of what we're going to talk about today, along with some excellent techniques that the Writing Center has shared with me over the years. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hello. My name is Serenity Doherty. I am the Assistant Director at the Writing Center, which is over in Andrews Hall. It's room, if you walk in through the west doors, it's right to your left there on the first floor. At the Writing Center, you can make free appointments to get any kind of feedback on your work on this project or other projects that you're doing. And so there are some activities during this presentation that require your participation, so do be ready to participate and actually talk to one another when we get to that point, okay? And if, I think that's good, yeah? All right. Okay, so this is, you might want to know why you should care about writing if you're going into computer science or software engineering, but you should because your employers care. So this is data from the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and that is an association that collects data from employers about the job market. And they're from about 200 employers, and they are everything from the American Red Cross to Apple to Deloitte. So this chart will tell you what employees consider essential skills and how good the candidates that they actually hire are at those skills. So, yeah. So the skills they consider essential, if you look at oral and written communication, that's 95.9%. And that's a pretty big deal. And then what they actually end up with, just like arrow, okay. What they actually end up with is about 41.6% of the employees they hire are like proficient at this very essential skill for their workplace. So it's a pretty big gap. So when you're thinking about writing and coding today and in the rest of your class, like this kind of thinking is going to be transferable to communication skills and writing skills. And just anytime you come into the Writing Center when we work with you, we help you develop any oral and written communication skills. It's not just about fixing one paper, it's about making better writers. So definitely come visit, take advantage of that service.
I would add that that's always a main item of contention with our IAP Industry Advisory Panel, that they would completely agree with these numbers, that oral written communication skills are number one. Everything from simply constructing a coherent email to actual design documents, which is what we're focusing on. Mm-hmm. And they also rate the number of applicants that they get are very, very low proficiency with respect to that. In fact, just the other day I read an article where 53% of all Americans only read at a 6th grade level. Hopefully nobody here is at that level, but understand what's out there, right? The majority of people don't have the reading skills, much less the technical writing skills necessary to enter today's job markets for professional level work. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so this is our agenda. We're going to talk about 3 different skills that you can use and apply to this assignment. And others. The first is free writing. So there are a lot of, the arrow key. My brain is just soup today. Free writing, where's the notes for that? There we go. Okay, so in writing good code is like writing a novel. The author posits that the process of writing code and the process of writing a novel are similar. In one section, he focuses on drafts. So think about how you draft an essay or any piece of writing. What are the steps you take to get from an idea to the final draft, and how are these steps similar to your coding process? So we're kind of skim through this real fast. We're not going to talk about it a lot, but in free writing, it's a good idea to just start writing at the start of any writing project. And when you do free writing, your goal is to not take your fingers off the keyboard, right? So you just let whatever comes to you come out to try to get through your ideas, because the good thing about writing is that writing makes concrete what's already in your brain, right? This is the abstract. You put it out into the concrete, and then you can sort it out a lot easier. So it's a good way to clear your brain and get started and figure out what your ideas actually are and which ones you want to follow.
And in the context of design and coding, what that means is whiteboarding. Whenever we say you whiteboard something, this is what we're talking about. It's free writing, right? It's basically, you're just spitting out ideas. You're throwing it up there. These are probably not going to be good ideas, right? They're going to be 5 bad ideas, but there's one idea that you keep, and then you get rid of everything else. Mm-hmm. It's a way of tackling what's called writer's block, right? So if you were writing a novel, or if you're writing an essay, or creative writing, or anything like that, and you just don't know what to write, this technique of free writing, of just starting to write whatever is, just flow of consciousness kind of stuff. That is a technique to get you over that hump, to actually get something on a piece of paper, to get something on a whiteboard, to get a piece of code actually written or something like that. Free writing just gets you over that hump and then gets you into the groove of doing that stuff. Again, whenever we say whiteboard it, we mean literally just go up to a whiteboard and start writing out ideas. We know that we're going to need this, we know we're going to need this, that, and then eventually you're going to have something up there. You start erasing the garbage, and then what's left is the good stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, do you want to do a minute free write, or?
We could skip that, because this lecture is generally for an hour and 15 minutes, but we only have a 50-minute window this semester.
All right. So we're going to talk about reverse outlines next. So you might wonder, how do I make a reverse outline? I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but normally we think of outlines as something we do before we start writing, right? You outline the structure that your paper is going to take. But a reverse outline is something you do afterwards. And it's a way of revealing how you organized your thoughts. If you're concerned that the paper might not be saying what you want it to say, a reverse outline is a good way to find out whether or not you made the point you were trying to make. Even if your paper is like really scattered or incoherent, like some of the ideas are in the wrong place, this is also a good way to find that out, right? So if you basically you go back through, you start, and next to each like paragraph or section that you've written, you just write like a 1-sentence summary of what that paragraph or section is saying. And then it helps you, if you're like, oh, okay, I'm talking about this part of the project here, but I'm also talking about it all the way down here and a little bit right here. Maybe I want to try to bring those 3 things together and move it up or move it further in the paper one way or the other, right? So it's just a really good way to kind of like check for coherence, clarity, and organization. And in coding?
Here's an example of just plain old English.
Oh, okay, that's right.
This is from the original individual I worked with from the Writing Center. I believe that she was, she took this from a cover letter from one of her applications. And so generally, she wanted to make sure that it was as straightforward and to the point as possible. So what she did is she wrote a paragraph here with 2 sentences. The second paragraph, I believe, has 3 sentences. And basically, you can go ahead and read through this as well. These are the main ideas, right? Introduce myself and purpose to the reader, right? So if you're introducing yourself in the first paragraph, you don't want to be introducing yourself also in the third paragraph. I'm also, whatever, right? You move that up into the proper location so that you're not repeating yourself. For coding, this goes to the DRY principle. Do not repeat yourself, right? Don't repeat yourself. You want things as terse and to the point as possible. Now, that goes to technical writing too. Technical writing, the number one aspect of it is that you're not writing a novel, right? You don't need flowery language. You don't need lots of adjectives and full page description of the beauty of your code or whatever, right? It's not a novel. It's not creative writing. It's technical writing. You need to get to the point and as short as possible. So being as terse as possible is actually a good thing. right? If you're ever in a class and you have to write an essay and they say that there's a 5-page minimum or something like that, that goes out of the door with respect to technical writing, right? If you can get every aspect of the system down in 1 page, awesome, great, do it, right? But also there's a little bit, don't be too terse. Don't limit yourself so that no detail, that the essential details are not there, that they end up being omitted. So we call that Goldilocksing, right? Not too short, not too long. What is Goldilocks? Just right, exactly, right? The second paragraph, of course, is explaining why I'm qualified for the job. Now, in the context of coding here, you can do the same thing. So here's a motivating problem, right? It's very, very similar to one you did on Lab 3, where you this is an application in like bioinformatics, where you're given a sentence, or you're given a word or a sentence or something like that. Generally, this is done in the context of DNA. So you're given a DNA string, and you want to compute all the suffixes, and then you want to sort them because you want to create what's called a suffix tree. The idea here is simple. Just take a single word here, like science, right? So what are all the suffixes? Well, science itself is a suffix of science. And then you take away the first letter and you get science, or however you want to pronounce that, right? Then ience, ens, and then down to e. Those are all of the suffixes. But then if you go through and sort them according to lexicographic order, you get this list right here, right? Very simple, straightforward solution. So here is code that we would have expected people to write, right? Let's reverse outline this, right? So this is where we're going to ask you to participate in this. Maybe take a minute and talk to your partner or talk to the person next to you. How many main points are there, and what are those main points? Right? Go ahead.
I'm just looking for the time.
Sure.
It's over there.
Yeah. We're an hour ahead over there, but
Okay.
it's also right there.
Oh, okay.
That's the correct
Okay.
time.
All right, good deal. Thank you. I was like, where it usually is on my computer. I don't have a Mac. I took one coding class at the start of my PhD program, but I don't know that much.
Okay.
What kind of coding is this?
That's Java.
Oh, okay.
They use Java for this course.
Oh, okay. See, yeah, the class I took was Python, so
Okay.
I don't know anything about Java. It's interesting.
All right, so does anybody want to volunteer how many main points there are? Just a number. How many? Yeah, go ahead.
I thought 3.
3. Why did you think that?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's spaced out pretty nicely.
Right, it looks nice, right? That's what code should look like, right? Use a valid use of white space. We've seen a lot of people that just double space everything, or that don't chunk everything. They just put everything into one chunk, right? That's not how code should be. Code should be organized like an outline like this. What's your second thought?
The second thing was, well, I mean, I do understand the code, so I saw that the 3 different sections just do 3 different things.
Exactly.
The first entire section all goes together.
All right, so what does the first section do?
It just adds the suffixes into a list that you
Okay. What does the second section do?
it sorts,
All right, it sorts, right? And what does the third one do?
prints.
It prints out to the standard output, right? It was easy to do that reverse outline because you started with nice, clean code. What else what do I not have here?
Comments.
Do I have a single comment? Why? The code is self-documenting. Exactly. What if I did have a comment above that said, creates a collection of suffixes from the first command line argument, and initializes the collection, and iterates over the collection, right? I'm repeating myself. DRY, don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself in comments. As long as you've got good code, that good code is self-documenting. Now, as we were grading the assignment one thing that I did see that was self-documenting, but you could argue that it does need a comment, was a rescaling. So remember that we take a percentage of the corn silo that was full, And people were multiplying that by 100 because when you printed it out, you wanted it on a scale of 0 to 100, whereas the input was 0 to 1. And so I've seen people put in comments that say something like, scaling this for the output. That's a perfect comment because it says why you did it, right? Not the what. If you say, I'm multiplying this by 100, and you say multiply by 100, right? That is terrible cruft. Remember what cruft is? Right? Cruft Hall at Harvard or whatever, right? You fill it up with garbage. That's where you put the garbage. Get rid of the cruft, right? It was nice, compact, clean code. Now let's try again with this code. And I assure you that this code is correct. It executes and produces the exact same output. Right? It is correct. So take 30 seconds to do it. All right, we won't cause you any more pain here, right? So, just so that you think that I did not write this code. I could not write code this badly if I tried. Instead, this is actual student submissions. It's a Frankenstein submission. I took like the 3 or 4 worst submissions and I added them all together to produce this and made sure that it actually worked. What's wrong with it? Yeah.
There's some useless comments.
Useless comments, dead code, right? Cruft that should not be there, right? You have to, well, why was it there to begin with? Okay, they got rid of it because they were doing, I don't know, right? It's distracting, right? Just like if you had a paragraph that you were writing in a novel, and then right in the middle you had a sentence that, oh yeah, I need to pick up eggs on the way home, right? What? Get rid of it, right? Right? What else is wrong with it? No? It repeats itself, right? So if you take a look at that second chunk there, it's splitting it out just to add it, just to combine them all again so that it can split it out again, right? It's repeating operations there, right? What about that chunk of code right there, from this for loop right here all the way down here? What is it doing there? Kind of heard it. I heard the S. What is it doing? It's sorting it. How is it doing it? Well, that's a selection sort, or an attempt at selection sort, right? Do we do that? Do we roll our own? Do we write our own code if there's something like, oh, I don't know, collections.sort already there, right? So, taking something that adds 12 lines of code and getting rid of it to use a built-in library is way more preferable than rolling your own like this, right? All right. In fact, I didn't even show a selection sort, right? Why? Because I showed you .sort. Right? All right, so please go ahead.
All right, so so you see how these techniques can help you with your code itself, but let's talk about the design documents because that's the assignment you've got coming up. So these are some questions that you need to answer in your design document. What are you writing? Who is it for? And why is it important? So is there anybody that already knows the answers to these questions right offhand? Just by a show of hands, if you know the answer. Do you know the answer to these 3 questions? Kind of? Right, yeah. So these are pretty important questions to answer before you get started. If you've got a draft coming up, you need to know what they are. So where would you go if you don't know these answers? The Writing Center can help you find them if you're having trouble finding them where you should go initially, which is like to the assignment prompt, right? Or your instructor, yeah? So this is the assignment prompt, and it says in the assignment prompt, under the evaluation and grading section, the design document should be clear and comprehensive enough that a reasonably technically competent person could reproduce your system design, though not necessarily every detail, with identical functionality without access to your actual code base. Our evaluation will be based on how well your design document achieves this principle, and in addition, we'll also evaluate your technical writing skills by evaluating the items listed in the rubric below. So that's from the actual prompt. And you can see that sentence that's bold. That's telling you the answers to these questions, right? What are you writing? You're writing a clear, comprehensive design document, and it has to be for someone who is reasonably technically competent, right? Like that stuff is in your assignment prompts. If you do have trouble finding it or figuring it out, you can either talk to your professor or you can bring stuff into the Writing Center. Sometimes we're able to help you like dig through that and figure out what's going on, what your professor is actually looking for.
Yeah, if you were a reasonably technically competent person, would you need to be told what Java is? No. Would you need to be told what object-oriented programming is? No. So you're going to be writing it for a technical audience, right? You're going to be writing it for somebody who knows or who is able to implement the system already. They just need to know what are the requirements. What is the design of the system? What does the database look like? What does the object model look like? What objects were created, and what variables are inside those objects or those classes, right? You're going to be talking about it at a high level, not the low-level details of, I used a for loop instead of an enhanced for loop over here because blah, 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 right? No, that kind of detail does not belong in a design document. In fact, a design document could be or should be completely language agnostic. You can mention that we implemented it in Java and we did this, this, and this, but ultimately, somebody should be able to take this document and produce a C# solution on a .NET stack or something like that with absolute identical functionality, but completely different language and technology stack. You're trying to keep it as general and generic as possible. And we also have provided a professional example from industry from Deloitte. So, yeah. And that's what we're going to actually take a look at here. This is the one from Deloitte.
Oh. So we'll try reverse outlining this document now. Just want to take a minute maybe? Or?
Sure.
Okay, just take like a minute and try to like reverse outline this document from Deloitte. This is an example of what you guys are going to be doing, so.
Yeah, discuss with the person next to you. Right? Just this section.
Oh, are there people online?
Yeah,
Oh.
they're all over here.
Oh, okay, they're talking in the chat. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Because I did forget to mention that. Is that good?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so how did you feel reverse outlining this? Was it harder, easier? Or let me put that another way. What about this sample makes it easier for like a reader to get through? Yeah.
I mean, it's like already outlined for you, so it's hard to outline because like it's done.
Yeah, how is it outlined?
Well, it tells you, like, for the first one, for example, it tells you the approach and then the 4 different steps within that approach.
How did they format those 4 different steps? As a bullet pointed list, right? Technical writing, right? Do you want to see a novel of words, right? No, they've organized the main points differently here. First of all, do you see a paragraph here with more than 2 sentences? No, right? Short and to the point. Reorganizing main ideas as bullet pointed lists or enumerated lists or something like that, right? That is way better. I mean, if you were writing a novel, you wouldn't want a bullet pointed list of stuff because you want it to be creative. You want it to be engrossing. Whatever. Whoever writes novels, whatever they want to do it with. But this is a technical document, right? That you just want to pull out the main points, state the main points, and in fact, you can say, like you pointed out, this document is created and extended in multiple phases over the course of the project. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. In fact, there's a lot of repetition, right? During the requirements phase, during the system phase, during the construction phase. I think we can zoom in on it here, right? The same sentence structure over and over and over again. Whereas that would not be acceptable in a novel or creative writing, or maybe even an essay, right? That is actually the norm with respect to technical writing. Right? Yeah, that consistency is key, right? You want, because somebody is not reading this document for fun, right? Somebody is reading this document so that they can get a job done. Anything that impedes getting the job done as quickly as possible, as straightforward as possible, is wrong.
Yeah.
And
That's it on that
yeah,
one.
go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah.
What about this? This is also in the same document here. Right? How many words are here? How many paragraphs are here? There's a one sentence, one paragraph statement. Now this is something called an ER diagram, an entity relation diagram. This is something that you'll actually generate when we get to the database phase. Similar to this is a UML diagram, which is a universal modeling language. That's what you'll be that's actually what you should be producing for your draft this Friday. You do not have to have your code done and ready and have plant UML, which is the one that will suggest that you use to generate your diagrams, right? Go ahead and whiteboard it. Take a picture of it. Everybody here has a phone, right? And then put that into the document. That's a draft, right? That's exactly what a draft should be. If you want to use a nice little drawing program to draw out your ideas, go ahead and do that, right? But in the end, your final draft, of course, we're going to expect a nice looking diagram like this. But this diagram, you know, the old, is it an adage or is it I don't know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Mm-hmm. It's an idiom, I guess, right? It's an old idiom that says that a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is worth 1,000 words, right? You could actually, to even describe this database structure in plain old English, it would probably take 3 pages of text. Whereas this diagram here has given you all the information in a nicely digestible solution, right? Each one of these things represents a table. You can focus in on one of those tables at a time without having to worry about everything else. Okay, and then that table is related to that table over there. The diagram shows this using an arrow, right? Every single piece of information on the database is available here without so much as a word in plain old English. Another advantage to something like this is that, one, if you implement the database in code, you can actually automatically generate this diagram. You could also reverse it. You can actually design a database by drawing a diagram in a program, and then it'll dump out all the code that generates that database. Right? So there is a back and forth here between a technical design document and the actual code artifacts that are produced as part of a project. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, I just really want to echo what you said because that is really important. My best friend in the world is an engineer, and yeah, they have some serious problems because they have to share things and communicate back and forth. And if somebody is not doing things in a way that makes sense, it throws off everyone else's work. Okay, so the UNL Writing Center, we offer one-on-one sessions with undergrads or grads for writing in any discipline, any stage of the writing process, whether you're brainstorming, organizing your ideas, polishing a final draft, or anything in between. And it can be academic or non-academic writing. So even one of the skills of technical communication in the job place is also writing emails, right? And if you feel like you're not very good at writing emails, you could come into the Writing Center for help with writing emails. We could talk about drafts that you've done in the past. This is genuinely any kind of writing, we will look at it.
I would add on that, before you even get into the job market, you're going to have to produce a CV or a resume, as well as a cover letter, right? And drafting that kind of stuff, going over to the Writing Center for help is key. Especially in this day and age where HR drones are just putting stuff into a computer, where unfortunately SEO is going to be requirements for your both your resume and your cover letter. SEO, search engine optimization, right? Getting those keywords in there, those key phrases that don't get filtered out by the big giant bots that the HR goons are using nowadays, right? You need to get past those people in order to even get your foot in the door. And the one thing that you can do is go to the Writing Center, and hopefully they're up on the latest as well of what keywords need to be in there in order for the bots that they use to identify you as a potential candidate, right?
Yeah, he's not kidding about that either. That's a real thing too. It's hard to get people through HR because there's just, it's bots, and a lot of it will get tripped up really easily. So you have to pay careful attention to your application stuff. Or if you're applying to graduate school, you'll be writing a personal statement. That is one of like the hardest writing projects that you have to do if you do that. So
And unfortunately, there are not bots for that.
No,
those
not.
are going to be faculty reading that stuff.
Yes.
And so optimizing it for an actual human is way different than optimizing it for a bot.
And they'll ask you questions that they want you to answer in the personal statement, and they are intentionally designed to trick you a lot of the time into saying stuff that will reveal like red flags about you, or like what kinds of things stress you out and stuff like that, you know. So you have to be really careful with it, with what you write in there. We actually are working on implementing new cover letter and personal statement workshops, cover letter workshops happening in the spring, and personal statement ones happening in the fall, since that's around application time versus job application time. So keep an eye out for those. You know, follow us on social media. We'll talk about it on social media for sure. And you can make appointments for either like a video chat, which is where we both log on. It's basically like a Zoom call, but the platform's not Zoom. Or for email feedback. So in the evenings, there are consultants that their availability will say e-tutoring next to it. You can make an appointment with them, and all you have to do is upload your paper and then come back after the end of the appointment time and revisit that anytime you want to. Revisit the appointment, and they will have uploaded a version of your paper with comments in the margins letting you know suggestions. So you don't even have to meet with anybody. It takes almost no time to do one of those kinds of appointments, right?
Be aware that they are not there to be your proofreaders.
No.
They're not going to go line by line and say, you misspelled this is the wrong tense, this is better grammar, whatever. They're going to give you broad, abstract, outlined ideas of this is how you could improve your writing. They are not a proofreading service. Instead, if you're teaming up with a partner, each one of you is the other's proofreading service. Or if you're working alone, then pull your roommate in and say, hey, read this and proofread it for me. You want to make sure, of course, that that they're above that 6th grade reading level that I talked about, and make sure. But a second pair of eyes is always helpful. Right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, we will also, if you have a tendency to make like recurring grammar errors and it's the same one over and over, sometimes we will point that out too. So we do some of that, but we don't proofread, that's correct. The appointments are about 40 minutes. You can go to unl.mywconline.com to schedule an appointment. And as far as what to expect and prepare for when you have an appointment, they've got that on the Writing Center webpage, but basically you just come in, you'll meet with a consultant. We'll ask you a lot of questions. It will feel like we're mostly just interviewing you, but that's not what's happening. We're trying to like get you to articulate the things that maybe you've missed in your writing, or ask about your goals and intentions so that we can understand whether or not you've met them, that kind of thing. So bring the assignment prompt if you have it. That's always really helpful, because then we know what your professors are looking for a little bit better. But yeah, that's basically it there.
Again, the title of this was all about drafting, and so writing to design and communicate. We didn't put drafting in the title. We should have, but it's all about drafting, right? When you were writing like a 5-paragraph essay or a 5-page essay or something like that, you don't just write once and then that's what you turn in. Well, I mean, you can, but what kind of a grade are you likely to get? Right? Terrible, right? That's why this is part of the process. You will be turning in, I think, 5 drafts, and then the 6th final draft. That's the one that gets graded based on content. These 5 drafts are important. As long as they're not trivial, you're going to get that full 5 points, right? It's a small amount of points to make sure that you've got some skin in the game, But it's not, we're not gonna, say, oh, nope, that 125 points is gone in your first draft, right? You're gonna go back and you're going to revise it, and you're gonna fix it, and you're gonna update it. Because each one of these is tied to the phase of the project. In the first phase, you're doing EDI, electronic data interchange. You're going to be designing your basic objects. In the second phase, you're going to be actually producing your reports, which is new functionality. So you'll go back to your draft and you will update it so that it conforms to that. As you're going through this entire phase, treat it as if it is done, right? Don't talk in future tense. Well, the next phase we're gonna do this, or we did this, or whatever, right? It's done. It is in present perfect tense. This is a system that is done and built and designed, right? Talk about it in the present tense, that it is designed this way and it is done this way, right? You can talk about your testing in past tense in that we created 5 test cases covering data of all types, and oh, by the way, all of our tests passed, and so we had a high expectation that this is correct, right? You can go ahead and talk about that kind of stuff in the past, but as far as the actual design of the system, it is built, right? Talk about it in that tense. Another common mistake people make is treating it like a diary, right? It is not a diary. It is not first person, right? So talk about it in impersonal forms. Don't use personal pronouns, I, we, my partner, I did this, my partner did that, right? Don't do that. That's not a professional document. People would not do that in a real document. So use impersonal, would you call it second person or
yeah.
third person?
Yeah,
something, I don't know.
person, yeah.
Whatever second person is. But I don't know why we skipped it. Yeah. So third person, keeping it general. Also, again, the reason that we have this assignment to begin with is for 2 reasons. One is to give you exposure to real technical writing and to develop those skills for your future, right? The second reason that we do this, and we do it based on each one of the phases of this project, is so that you can get that early feedback. Unfortunately, the good majority of students just turn in crap, right? Well, this, and this. Why just to get it done? Well, there's my 5 points. They don't get feedback on their design. They then go with a bad design at the last minute, and then they are living with that bad design. Not only do they get a bad grade on that phase, but we call it eating your own dog food, right? If you have a bad design in phase 1, you're going to be living with that bad design in phase 2. You're going to be living with that bad design in phase 3. That bad design will compound to the point where your code will end up looking like this, right? Garbage on top of garbage, right? At which point you will have to go back and refactor it. You'll have to fix it at some point. So the old adage of you either do it right the first time by designing it up front and then implementing it, or you have to find time to do it over in the future. In the context of software development, we call that technical debt, right? Technical writing, technical debt. Why? Because you got it done quickly, right? Yeah, maybe it worked, maybe there are a few bugs or something, but we did it quick. Yay, yay for us. What you actually did is you took out a loan. You took out a loan on your future time, right? And that loan is paying, you're going to pay interest on that future time. Because not only do you have to redo it, but you're going to be living with those bugs or that bad design or whatever going forward. So technical debt, do not take out a loan on your future time. The opposite of a loan would be what? Investment, exactly. Mm-hmm. Invest in your time up front with a good design, and that will actually pay you later on because things will be a lot easier, things will be a lot smoother going forward. Right?
I think that there's a lot of stigma too that like the Writing Center is a place where people go when they need help, and I don't need help. Like, this is not somewhere for me. If you're sitting there like thinking that, that is just not true, okay? The Writing Center is not a place where like people who are bad at writing go. The Writing Center is a place where people who are good at writing go, okay? Because getting feedback on your writing is always a good idea. It's never a bad idea. Like I've got multiple graduate degrees in writing right now, so I kind of know my stuff, right? I teach writing, but I still make appointments there to meet with consultants. I'm an assistant director there. I still meet with people to work on my stuff because writing is about getting feedback and how other people are interpreting it. So you absolutely should go there. And if you're still just like, I'm the best writer ever, you should apply to work there then, because we are hiring. So just that little plug, we are hiring. We like people from all different majors. It's a lot of fun, and you get better at writing. Even if you're really, really good, you get better at writing by working with other people on their writing too. So.
And again, drafting is a valuable skill to have throughout your entire life. Remember, one of the mantras of this course, or one of the themes of this course, was by Eric S. Raymond. He has another quote in that book of his, The Cathedral and the Bazaar, that be okay with throwing one away. What that means is that when you draft, right, that's not wasted effort. If your draft turns out to be garbage, if your first piece of code, your first program turns out to be garbage, don't think that it has value just simply because you put a bunch of time into it. That's not where the value is. The value is in the time and effort that you put into it to learn something about it. Take that and throw it away, start over. That second version, that second draft, will be a hell of a lot better than that first one. Because of the process, not because of this code over here. Be okay with throwing one away. The last tip that I'll give you is a life tip, is that drafting is absolutely essential in all communications. For example, just a personal tip here, that anytime that something pisses you off or somebody pisses you off and you're about to shoot off an email, draft it, right? Go ahead and get your anger out on a piece of paper, on an email. Do not send it, right? Put that away, come back to it later on after you've cooled off, or give it to somebody else, some trusted confidant, and tell them, is there a way that I can get this across in a little bit more diplomatic way, right? And then once you've gotten your anger out first, right, and you're pissed off, right? Yes, that's cathartic. Get it out on a piece of paper, get it out on an email. Don't send it. Go back and draft it, right? Because that second one is going to be a lot better for your interpersonal skills, right? So keep that in mind as well. Drafting is good, not just for technical writing, not just for code, but for your own personal and professional livelihood.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, any questions? No? All right then. Your first draft is due this Friday, and again, the outline of what we're expecting in that first draft is on today's Piazza post. All right. Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah. And we have another one in